Today's episode takes us deep into a gripping story where each ticking second echoes like a heartbeat in the chest of an unsuspecting small town, about to face one of the worst tragedies in its history. We are in Star City, 70 kilometers south of Pittsburgh, where life usually flows without trouble. But on one fateful summer night, everything changes. Here, the fate of a young teenager, Skylar Neese, takes an unexpected turn, turning this night into a waking nightmare. The quiet streets of this small town will soon echo with terror, an event so horrific that it will leave a permanent scar on the community. Dive into a story that will send shivers of horror and disbelief down your spine. Star City, a small town on the outskirts of Morgantown, West Virginia, is a close-knit community of about 2,000 residents, predominantly white, with a notable presence of African Americans and Asians. The town thrives on a spirit of solidarity and civic engagement, embodying the typical atmosphere of small-town America, where everyone knows each other. It is in this town that Skylar Neese was born on February 10th, 1996, the only child of Mary Neese, an administrative assistant in a cardiology lab, and Dave Neese, a Walmart employee. She is a lively and ambitious teenager. A student at Louis Chess High School, Skylar shines among her peers, standing out for her intelligence and determination. On weekends, she works at Wendy's, a local fast food restaurant, earning her own spending money. Driven by a passion for mysteries and an insatiable curiosity, Skylar dreams of a career in criminology. Her sharp and analytical mind, capable of imagining complex scenarios, often leads her to discuss famous cases with her friends and family for hours. Her passion for justice and her desire to help others make her a unique and valuable presence in her community. She is deeply cherished, not only for her warm personality, but also for her profound desire to make a difference in the world. In this small town, everyone knows her. She is a beloved young girl who embodies the hopes and dreams of an entire generation. It is within this seemingly ordinary life that Skylar's story unfolds. A life full of promise and aspiration. Skylar finds a true kindred spirit in Shayla Eddy. They meet during childhood, at the age of 8, in their school, and their unique bond of friendship only grows stronger in high school. They become inseparable, known to all for their unwavering solidarity. Skylar sees Shayla as a confidant, an ally, a sister at heart. This deep connection influences every aspect of her life, offering her support and comfort in moments of doubt. One sunny afternoon, Skylar and Shayla sit under their favorite tree in the schoolyard. "Do you think we'll still be friends after high school?" Skylar asks. "Of course, nothing will ever change that. Sometimes I'm scared of the future." "Don't worry, I'll be there no matter what," Shayla reassures her, squeezing Skylar's hand. "Promise me," her friend insists. "I promise," Shayla says with a comforting smile. To those around them, Skylar and Shayla are not just friends. They share a deep bond, a true sisterhood of their own. This closeness takes on an even deeper meaning in an era where social media intertwines with teenage life. These platforms become a reflection of their friendship, amplifying every smile and every tear before a global audience. Their online profiles are a kaleidoscope of shared moments. Selfies taken in the golden glow of dusk, videos of impromptu dances, and fleeting posts that capture the carefree spirit of their age. In Skylar's home, Shayla is a constant, almost ghostly presence. Skylar's parents speak of Shayla as a second daughter, so much a part of their household that her presence feels natural. "You know, Shayla is more than a friend to me," Skylar murmurs. "To us, she's like a sister to you," her mother confirms. Dave nods silently, a warm smile on his lips. "I can't imagine my life without her." "She'll always be there for you, just like we will," Mary assures her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. But fate, ever fickle, often mocks promises of eternity. An unexpected event is about to shatter the quiet course of their lives. In high school, Skylar and Shayla cross paths with Rachel Schoaf. This encounter seals an inseparable trio. They don't just call themselves friends, they are sisters, a sacred bond that transcends mere companionship. Their high school journey begins with the carefree spirit of youth, pushing boundaries with reckless curiosity, sneaking their first cigarettes, slipping out at night to taste the thrill of alcohol, or secretly meeting up with friends. These moments of freedom are all the more satisfying thanks to the part-time jobs they hold, giving them a glimpse of the independence they so eagerly desire. Hidden behind the school, the three girls chat as Skylar starts the conversation. We can do anything, like the world is at our feet. It's exciting, that's true, but sometimes I wonder if we're going too far, Shayla adds. Too far? At our age, this is the time to live fully. Rachel's right. We have to seize every moment, Sky continues. Yeah, but I'm afraid some choices might haunt us later, Shayla murmurs, almost to herself. Regrets? That's unthinkable. These moments will be the jewels of our memory, Rachel declares. Exactly. As long as we're together, nothing can go wrong, right? Sky says, locking eyes with her friends in a knowing glance. The trio, bound by strong ties, shares laughter and secrets through these tumultuous years. Together, they navigate the joys and sorrows of youth, drifting between school desks and nights where carefree abandon blends with the haze of alcohol and cannabis. Unfortunately, in a trio of friends, it often seems that two grow closer, leaving the third feeling left out. In this case, it is Skylar who begins to feel the shift as Shayla and Rachel's bond deepens, slowly overshadowing their friendship with her. Their once unbreakable connection starts to show cracks. Sunny afternoons, once filled with freedom and laughter, now become a stage for rising tensions. As intoxication sweeps Shayla and Rachel into a whirlwind of uninhibited affection, Sky finds herself increasingly on the sidelines, reduced to a mere spectator, capturing these moments on her phone, a desperate attempt to hold on to a sense of normalcy slipping away. I don't know what's happening with them, Sky whispers to her reflection in the mirror, holding a photo of her friends. Are they changing? Or is it me? She wonders, confusion clouding her eyes. Social media becomes her outlet, a place where she voices her pain and loneliness through cryptic tweets, silent cries for anyone willing to listen. The responses she receives from Shayla and Rachel are ambiguous, teetering between friendliness and cruelty, leaving Sky in a constant state of uncertainty. Nahananom, why are you pushing me away? Sky asks her friends one day during one of their usual meetups. Listen, Sky, you're different, Rachel replies. Different how? Because I don't want to kiss you when I'm drunk, she snaps back. It's not that, Sky. It's just complicated, Shayla interjects. Their friendship, once a safe haven, has turned into a battlefield where every word is a potential weapon. Despite appearances, Twitter photos, forced smiles, the truth is their trio is falling apart. Sky feels increasingly isolated, her attempts to hold on to their bond crashing against a wall of misunderstanding and secrets. It is within this growing tension that Skylar's life takes an unexpected turn. On July 6, 2012, Skylar prepares to take the family car. The dawn is barely breaking as her parents hand her the keys. Be careful on the road, sweetheart, Mary calls out. I will, I promise. And don't forget to wear your seatbelt, Dave adds. The day stretches on for Skylar as she completes her shift at the local restaurant. By the time she hands the car keys back to her father that evening, exhaustion weighs heavily on her shoulders. I'm exhausted. I'm going straight to bed, Skylar announces. Did you eat anything? Mary asks, concerned. Yeah, just a quick sandwich. Good night. Skylar heads to her room. Her parents remain in the living room, engrossed in a popular reality TV show. They nod absent-mindedly, their eyes fixed on the contestants moving across the screen. Get some rest, sweetheart, Dave advises. And let us know if you need anything, Mary adds. Her bedroom door closes softly, and the silence of the night settles over the house. Then as dawn rises over Morgantown, Skylar is nowhere to be found. Her parents leave for work. Around noon, Dave returns home, expecting a quick lunch before heading back to work. He goes upstairs to wake his daughter, who is supposed to be leaving for work in a few minutes, and knocks on Skylar's door. Sky, it's time to get up. I'm leaving the keys here, Dave calls out. No response. His worry grows and he knocks more insistently. Sky, sweetheart? Are you there? He calls, a slight tremor in his voice. Silence is his only answer. He tries to turn the doorknob, but the door is locked. A sense of unease settles over him. He rushes downstairs, exits the house, and notices Skylar's bedroom window is open, with a bench placed below it. It's very unsettling. Dave calls his wife. "Mary, do you know where Sky is? Her window's open, and she's not answering." "No, I have no idea. She didn't say anything last night," Mary replies, confusion mixing with her growing anxiety. Dave, his brow furrowed with worry, dials Shayla's number. "Shayla, it's Dave. Have you seen Sky today?" he asks. "No, Mr. Neese. We talked around midnight, but after that, nothing," Shayla responds. Dave, convinced that Skylar's disappearance might just be a typical teenage runaway, feels his heart heavy with worry when the phone rings. On the other end is the Wendy's manager. "Mr. Neese, it's past noon and Sky's not at work. This isn't like her," the manager informs him. "I understand. Thank you for letting me know." The seriousness of the situation settles in. If Skylar had planned a late-night escape, she would never have missed work. What seemed like a teenage runaway now takes on a more troubling dimension. Hours pass and the anxiety grows. Where is Skylar? What happened that night? The questions multiply, but the answers remain elusive, leaving behind an unbearable suspense. Luckily, the apartment where the family lives is equipped with surveillance cameras aimed at the parking lot. The family requests to review the footage. The cameras capture a scene. On the grainy images, a car pulls into the parking lot, and almost immediately Skylar's figure appears, rushing toward the vehicle before disappearing into the night. "Look, Mary, that's definitely Skylar, right? She's getting into that car," Dave says, his eyes narrowed as he studies the surveillance screen with intensity. "But who's driving? You can't see anything on these images." Dave grabs the phone, his heart pounding, and dials 911. His voice is firm, though it betrays his deep concern. "Hello, I'd like to report my daughter, Skylar Neese, missing," he declares. "How old is your daughter, sir?" asks the 911 operator. "She's 16. When did you last see her?" "Last night. She came home after work. But this morning when I went to wake her up, I couldn't find her in her room." What exactly happened? Are there any specific circumstances we should know about? It could just be a typical teenage runaway. "I noticed her window was open, and there was a small stool beneath it. Then on the surveillance cameras in my apartment, we can see her sneaking out and getting into an unknown car." "I don't think this is just a runaway," Dave responds. "I'll send a patrol," the operator replies. "Please hurry, it's my daughter," Dave concludes, his voice trembling. Minutes drag on like hours, each tick of the clock ringing out like a cruel reminder of time passing. When the police arrive, they listen to the parents' story, but their response is exactly what Dave and Mary feared. "Teens sometimes do impulsive things. She'll probably come back on her own," the officer says. "But she got into a car with someone in the middle of the night. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you?" Dave insists. "We'll investigate, but try to stay calm. It's probably not as serious as you think." Dave and Mary look at each other, a mix of frustration and fear in their eyes. Their daughter has disappeared under alarming circumstances, yet they feel alone in the urgency of the situation. In the living room, illuminated by the flickering glow of the television, Skylar's parents sit, their eyes fixed on the screen, but their thoughts are elsewhere. The walls, adorned with family photos where their daughter smiles beside them, now seem to bear witness to a happiness that is no more. On the coffee table, stacks of missing flyers featuring Skylar's smiling face wait to be distributed. Their daughter is gone, and the unbearable waiting drives them to action. The phone rings, breaking the heavy silence. Shayla, her voice trembling, is on the other end of the line. Mary puts the call on speakerphone. "I need to talk to you about Skylar," Shayla starts hesitantly. "What is it, Shayla?" "Tell us," Mary asks with concern. I lied," Shayla admits. "I went to pick up Skylar that night." "What? Why lie to us?" Dave asks, confusion and anger mixing in his voice. "I thought she was going to come back. I dropped her off a few minutes from your house." "And was Rachel with you?" Mary asks, trying to piece the puzzle together. "Yes, we went out together. We went to smoke in an alley." The parents exchange an alarmed look. "We need to call the police," Dave says, standing up hastily. The conversation with Shayla reveals new leads, but also new fears. Skylar's parents, determined to find their daughter, begin posting flyers in the neighborhood under the worried gaze of their neighbors. The week following July 6, 2012, is marked by growing anxiety. Skylar has been missing for several days, and the surveillance footage showing her in an unknown car hasn't been enough to alert the investigators. However, her parents do not lose hope and continue to insist on troubling details. Their daughter left without her personal belongings, without money, without a phone charger, clues that suggest she planned to return home. Unfortunately, despite their insistence, it will take a full month before U.S. authorities decide to launch intensive searches. Source: Reddit. After a month of endless waiting, the FBI finally takes action. Skylar's parents, exhausted by anxiety and uncertainty, finally see a glimmer of hope. 1 month. How can they ignore the disappearance of a child for all this time? Mary wonders. The FBI is finally involved. They'll find her, Dave reassures. Look at this message from Shayla on Facebook. "Come home, Skylar," Mary reads, tears in her eyes. The conversation between the parents is interrupted by a phone call. It's Agent Henry Fox from the FBI, in charge of the case. "We've called Rachel and Shayla for new questioning. We're going to check every detail," Fox informs them. Thank you so much," Dave responds, a breath of hope returning to his voice. Skylar's parents hold hands, united in waiting and hope, as the investigators continue their search for the truth. The federal agents begin by questioning the last two people to see Skylar, Shayla and Rachel. In the interrogation room, the atmosphere is tense. The FBI agents ask precise questions, trying to reconstruct the last known moments of Skylar. "Tell us exactly what happened the night she disappeared," Fox asks, his gaze fixed on Shayla. We just smoked in an alley. Nothing more." "And then," Fox presses, "we dropped her off near her house around 1 or 2 in the morning," Rachel adds, her voice betraying growing nervousness. "Why didn't you drop her off directly at her house?" asked the other agent, Gordon Smith, studying the girl's reactions. "We didn't want to wake her parents with the noise of the car, and she was just a few minutes' walk from home," Shayla responds. "Are you sure nothing else happened that night?" Smith asks. "No, that's it. We went home after," Rachel replies. Fox and Smith exchange a look. Shayla and Rachel's statements are crucial, but there are still so many unanswered questions. What happened in those critical minutes between when she was dropped off and when she should have arrived at home? Why didn't the FBI agents check the city's surveillance cameras? Unfortunately for Star City, the authorities had deemed it unnecessary to install them in the small alleys of this town, which has a community of only 2,000 residents. In these silent alleys, 10 minutes can feel like an eternity, and every street corner may hide an unknown danger. Despite their efforts, the investigators hit a wall of uncertainty. Without a surveillance system in the alleys, they cannot confirm Rachel and Shayla's statements. The agents promise to continue the investigation diligently, while Skylar's parents wait, hoping for a miracle, as the FBI continues to unravel the complex web of Skylar's disappearance. In the small town of Star City, Skylar's disappearance has cast a shadow over the community. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by the mystery surrounding the last known moments of Skylar. The high school students, already shaken by the disappearance of their classmate, begin to fear for their own safety. "Did you hear what they're saying? That someone might have abducted her?" a high school girl whispers to her friend. "Yeah, and with no cameras, how will they ever know what happened?" The season of summer parties, once a symbol of freedom and carefree joy, is now marked by fear. The teenagers who had once looked forward to long summer nights now dread the walk home. Skylar's parents, distraught, watch as the town transforms. Once filled with the joyful presence of their daughter, their home now echoes with the silence of her absence. They scan the faces of passers-by, desperately searching for a clue, a sign of Skylar's whereabouts. "We have to keep searching, keep talking to people. Someone must know something," insists Dave, refusing to give up hope. "Yes, we can't let fear paralyze us. Skylar needs us." A few days later, Shania Ammons, a close friend of Shayla, is called in for questioning by the FBI. In the interrogation room, she takes her seat in front of the investigators. Her eyes reveal a definite nervousness, her hands twisting together. She begins to recount the events surrounding Skylar's disappearance. "The first time I heard about Sky's disappearance was from a message from Shayla," Shania says. "She said, 'Do you know about Sky? I can't find her. Her parents can't find her. The police can't find her. She's completely disappeared.'" The investigators listen, noting every detail. "I asked her what happened," Shania continues. "And what did she say?" "She told me everything about the night Skylar disappeared," Shania explains. "She seemed nervous, upset, and confused." "Did she tell you where they went or what they did?" asked Smith. "She mentioned they took the car, then hid in a dark alley to smoke." "And do you think she was telling the truth?" Smith presses, his gaze intense. "I don't know. She seemed sincere, but her voice was a little nervous. I asked her several times if she was involved in Sky's disappearance," Shania continues after a pause. "And she swore she wasn't." "If she swore," begins the investigator, leaving his sentence hanging. The investigators know that words spoken in the heat of the moment can be misleading, but every testimony is a thread that, once pulled, could unravel the truth. By cross-referencing their interrogations, the investigators begin to notice troubling similarities in Rachel and Shayla's statements. This raises their suspicions and leads them to believe that something is wrong. Every detail, every anecdote shared by the two girls is identical, as if they had carefully coordinated their stories. In missing persons cases, spontaneous testimonies are often scattered with small inconsistencies, the result of imperfect memories. Here, however, the absence of such discrepancies suggests prior rehearsal. The investigators listen again to Rachel and Shayla's statements, searching for gaps, signs of fabrication, or withheld information. They analyze the key moments of the evening in question, comings and goings, conversations, activities. On September 3rd, tension is palpable at the Star City Police Station. 2 months have passed since Skylar's disappearance, and each day without answers weighs heavily on the community. The investigators, determined to find clues, seize the phones and electronic devices of Shayla and Rachel. The computer experts get to work, combing through every file, every message in search of a lead or clue that could lead them to the truth. Unfortunately, the thorough analysis of the devices reveals nothing incriminating. It seems that all potentially useful data has been erased. When the news of the lack of evidence reaches Shayla and Rachel's parents, they arrive at the station, their faces marked by fatigue and anger. "You need to stop harassing them," insists Shayla's father. "Our daughters have nothing to do with Skylar's disappearance." "They are traumatized by all of this," adds Rachel's mother. "You're finding nothing because there's nothing to find." The investigators remain stoic in the face of these protests. They understand the parents' pain, but also know that every detail matters. "We understand your position," Fox replies calmly, "but we must follow all possible leads." The parents leave, convinced of their children's innocence, while the investigators, unshaken, dive back into the pile of evidence and testimonies, determined to unravel the case. The situation for Shayla and Rachel, the last to be with Skylar, becomes increasingly precarious. A campaign of harassment is unleashed against them, fueled by anonymous Twitter accounts demanding they reveal the truth. The messages, filled with references to karma and lies, are relentless, and the atmosphere turns toxic. Whispers turn into open accusations. The high school students, once classmates, now look at them with suspicion and distrust. They know something for sure is whispered in the hallways. The social pressure is immense. Shayla and Rachel find themselves isolated, their every move scrutinized and judged. Shayla, who has known Skylar since childhood, seems strangely distant in the face of her longtime friend's disappearance. Her rare tweets reveal no emotion, no call for help to find Skylar. Instead, she puts up a defiant front. "Getting tired of losing sleep over this. No one on this earth can handle me and Rachel. And if you think you can, you're wrong." Rachel, on the other hand, takes a different approach. Less active on social media, she takes the time to visit Skylar's parents, asking for updates, showing concern for the disappearance of her recent friend. This difference in attitude between the two girls does not go unnoticed and fuels conversations. "Why is Shayla doing nothing?" wonder the neighbors. "And why does Rachel seem more concerned?" This apparent lack of action from Shayla and Rachel contrasts sharply with what one would expect from close friends in such a situation. Normally, you'd mobilize social media, organize searches, and do everything to keep the attention on the missing person. But their silence and seeming inaction raise questions and stir rumors. Even Skylar's parents, initially convinced of Shayla and Rachel's innocence, begin to doubt, given the developments in the investigation. Mary Neese's heartbreaking message on Facebook reveals the depth of her despair and frustration. Overwhelmed by pain and uncertainty, she publicly expresses her suspicions and her need for the truth, justice, and above all, closure. Consider the possibility that they could have committed such acts. Given the information gathered during the investigation, it now appears that these young girls may be more involved than initially thought. Our family must find a way to grieve and rebuild, whether we find Skylar or, in the worst case, have to accept her loss, Mary posts on Facebook on December 16, 2012. The community is divided, torn between compassion for Skylar's family and the fear of unjustly condemning two young girls under the weight of public opinion. The facts are scattered like a macabre puzzle that investigators are trying to piece together. Shayla and Rachel, the two main suspects, are then called in for a lie detector test. Shayla, did you drop Skylar off near her house the night of her disappearance? Fox asks. Yes, that's what we did, Shayla replies. But the detector buzzes, indicating otherwise. Are you sure? Wasn't there a detour somewhere? Fox insists. No, we went straight to her house. The needles on the detector spike, revealing the lie. Rachel, meanwhile, refuses to take the test. The investigators are baffled, their suspicions growing as this refusal continues. In this tense atmosphere, Mary brings up the lies as during December, the girls told the parents a different version of the events. In this story, they admit that they didn't drop Skylar near her house. Instead, they headed to Blacksville, a remote town, where they hid on a forest trail to smoke. Shayla and Rachel recount how Skylar, gripped by hallucinations, ran into the forest and never resurfaced. Faced with this disappearance, instead of alerting the authorities, fear took over, and they fled, returning home without notifying anyone. Is it conceivable to believe they didn't alert the authorities when their friend disappeared into the woods? Why did they choose silence over seeking help? 12 days after Mary's Facebook post, published on December 16, 2012, Rachel loses control. Her piercing screams echo through the walls of her house, her frantic pacing resonates through the hallways, and her hands lash out at her parents in a fit of uncontrollable rage. Her mother, overwhelmed, has no choice but to have her urgently admitted to a psychiatric hospital. This hospitalization will completely change everything. 5 days pass during which Rachel is isolated from the outside world, social media, whispers, and accusing stares. It is in this bubble of forced calm that investigators find her for a new interrogation. From the first words, Rachel drops a bombshell. "We stabbed her," Rachel confesses in a flat voice, her gaze lost in the distance. The investigators, though prepared, cannot hide their shock. "Rachel, can you tell us what happened that night?" asks Fox. "It was supposed to be just a joke," Rachel replies, her eyes avoiding direct contact. "A joke?" Fox repeats, incredulous. "You call that a joke?" Rachel curls in on herself. I don't know. It got out of hand." "How did she react?" Smith presses. "She screamed. She begged," Rachel murmurs, the words slipping from her as though involuntary. Fox and Smith exchange heavy glances at this confession, one that could change the course of the investigation. During the January 3, 2013 interrogation, Rachel reveals the events of the tragic night Skylar disappeared. In detail, she explains that the murder had been planned in advance. In fact, a month prior, Rachel and Shayla had orchestrated what seemed to be a macabre prank. The plan was meticulously crafted, every detail thought out. Knives, a blanket, bleach to erase the traces, a shovel. Nothing was left to chance. But behind this facade of a joke lay a much darker intention. Shayla told Rachel that she wanted to get rid of Skylar. Here is Rachel's account of that night, a story that will shed light on the dark corners of this case. On July 6, 2012, around 12:30 a.m., an unknown car picks up Skylar in front of her house. Inside, her best friends, Shayla and Rachel. The car winds its way through the night to Brave, a ghost town deep within the Pennsylvania forest. They approach their destination. They stop. The engine cuts off, and a heavy silence settles in, only disturbed by the rustle of leaves. A solitary bench stands in the shadows, ready to welcome the three girls, unaware that it will be the last witness to their friendship before tragedy erupts. Skylar, unaware of the danger, realizes she has forgotten her lighter. She turns around and heads back to the car. Shayla and Rachel exchange a sinister, knowing look. 1, 2, 3, they whisper in unison before charging at Skylar, armed with knives. Skylar is stunned, and she fights back with all the energy of desperation. She struggles fiercely, managing to grab a knife and slashing Rachel's leg, causing her to retreat. "Stop! But why?" Skylar screams. Shayla, relentless, lunges at her again, and with cold determination, delivers the final blow. Skylar's last word dissolves into the night air. Why? In that moment, an bitter smile forms on Shayla's lips, and tears begin to form in her eyes. She realizes the depth of her betrayal, a bitter revelation that reminds her of the tragic fate of Julius Caesar, stabbed by his own friend Brutus. In her mind, the famous exclamation of the Roman emperor echoes, "It too, Brute. You too, Brutus?" In a flash of clarity, she grasps the full extent of her own betrayal. "And you, Shayla?" Shayla and Rachel try to bury Skylar, but the ground too hard resists their efforts. They decide instead to drag her to a nearby tree. There they hide her body under branches and foliage before disappearing into the night. Thus, for 7 months, Skylar rests under a heap of vegetation, just 38 minutes from her home, in an improvised and solitary grave. The investigators confront Rachel. "Why did you do this?" they ask, their voices heavy with grim seriousness. Rachel, with an empty gaze, coldly responds, "Because we didn't like her anymore." The words fall like stones into a bottomless well. Rachel's confession isn't enough to seal Shayla's fate. Without tangible evidence, the investigators can only speculate on the truth of the accusations. They decide to set a trap for Shayla, hoping that a conversation between the two girls will reveal the truth. Rachel's room is transformed into an improvised interrogation scene, equipped with a discreet microphone. Fox and Smith wait, listening intently, as Rachel and Shayla face each other. "You know, they'll never believe us," Rachel whispers. "Don't worry, they have nothing on us. What if they find something? Even if they do, they can't prove it was us who—" "You know," Shayla responds with a big smile. "But what if the body's discovered?" Rachel insists. "Then they'll just find Skylar. They'll never find our traces." The conversation continues, filled with unspoken words, but Shayla's implicit confession lingers in the air. "Did you see what I posted on Twitter?" Shayla whispers. "Yeah, a picture of us smiling big, saying, 'I finally got her.' That was risky, wasn't it?" Rachel replies. "It's just to throw them off, make them doubt," Shayla replies, laughing. In the course of the investigation, the detectives explain to Rachel that her confession will allow them to offer her a deal if she leads them to the crime scene and decides to officially press charges against Shayla. Rachel agrees to the deal. She knows it's her only chance to avoid a lengthy prison sentence. But what Rachel doesn't fully grasp is that a deal with the authorities doesn't grant freedom, but rather a reduced sentence. In murder cases, a typical sentence is 30 years in prison. Following the agreement, the detectives, accompanied by Rachel, head to the location she pointed out. They trudge slowly through the snow that covers the ground. They probe every inch of the icy terrain in hopes of discovering Skylar's body. "Are you sure this is the place?" Smith asks, his gaze inquisitive. "Yes, this is it," Rachel responds. They search for hours, but because of the snow, Skylar remains missing. At this moment, convinced she won't be going to prison, Rachel lets her thoughts slip onto Twitter, a stream of regret and hope for the future. "There are so many things I regret," she tweets, then adds, "but I'm on a new path and I couldn't be happier. I'm moving to England after college, starting a new life." She posts another tweet, "My past is the past." On March 13th, the investigators with tracking dogs return to the location. As the snow melts, a grim scene is revealed: a lone bench, a tree, and, under a pile of branches, the tragic remains of Skylar. The scene is macabre. The young girl had been brutally stabbed more than 50 times. This is horrific. How could anyone do this? Smith murmurs, his face pale. More than 50 stabs. It's a rage I can't even imagine. Yes, and it's a young girl. A young girl. What a tragedy for her parents, concludes Fox, his eyes filled with sorrow. 2 months later, on May 1st, Rachel seals her fate by signing a deal with the state. She pleads guilty and accuses Shayla, who is immediately arrested. Rachel Schoaf, now 17, is sentenced to 30 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 10 years. In court, Rachel expresses her regrets. I am truly sorry. No words can express the remorse I feel. It wasn't me. I was scared, and I committed an irreparable act. Dave, Skylar's father, responds bitterly. She can keep her apologies to herself. She ruined my life. She only cooperated because she was caught. Shayla, on the other hand, is tried separately. Unlike Rachel, she pleads not guilty, insisting on her innocence and accusing Rachel of lying. In court, she remains silent, answering questions with only yes or no. Facing the lack of concrete evidence and fearing a reversal that could lead to her acquittal, the prosecutor offers her a deal. If she pleads guilty, she could be released in 2029. Shayla accepts the offer and is sentenced to life imprisonment for murder, with the possibility of parole after 16 years. After the verdict, Dave expresses his contempt for his daughter's former friend. Shayla lied from start to finish. She will keep lying until her last breath, claiming her innocence. No matter how many excuses she invents, a liar remains a liar. And rest assured, I will be present at every parole hearing to ensure she stays behind bars for the rest of her life. The psychiatric evaluations of the accused remain confidential, but leaks suggest that Shayla is described as a psychopath, devoid of empathy for her actions. This lack of remorse seems to justify her distant attitude. During her trial, she offers no apologies to Skylar's loved ones and sheds no tears. Shayla and Rachel now reside in the same correctional facility. The tragic case of Skylar Neese has had deep repercussions, but the most significant one is perhaps its impact on the American judicial system, embodied by the adoption of the Skylar Law. This law brought about major changes to the AMBER alert system for missing children. Previously, a child had to be considered in immediate danger to trigger an alert, but Skylar's disappearance revealed the shortcomings of this system. The new law was put in place to ensure that no other missing child would be left without the necessary assistance for a swift and effective search. It modified protocols, allowing for a quicker response from authorities in cases of missing children, regardless of the initial presumption of runaway or abduction. More than 10 years have passed since the tragedy, and time has not erased the pain. Dave and Mary, united in the eternal memory of Skylar, have become the guardians of her memory. They ensure that her story is not forgotten, that her name continues to resonate as a call for justice and vigilance. Since March 27, 2013, the adoption of the Skylar Law has stood as a lasting tribute to the memory of their daughter, taken too soon.